Hello, my name is Sarah Smith, and this is TESE 826, Program Design for Gifted and Talented Education, my final presentation. I conducted a needs assessment of parents in my district who had identified gifted children. These children were at the elementary school, middle school, and high school. I had 35 respondents, and there were 7 questions on the parent survey, and for each question it asked the parents to give scaled agreement with the statement from strongly agree to strongly disagree. There's also one open-ended response question that allowed the parents to submit additional comments or questions or answers about their child's gifted education. One of the first questions that I would like to look at, the statement was, the educational needs of my child are being adequately met at school. 43% of parents strongly agreed with this statement, and 24% somewhat agreed, with 12% being neutral on this issue. So we see more than 3/4 of our parents are, more than 2/3 of our parents, I should say, are in strong agreement with the statement, and then we see a little bit less than 1/4 of our parents disagreeing or strongly disagreeing with this statement. The next statement was, my child is being sufficiently challenged through gifted services and seminars. 33% strongly agree and 43% somewhat agree. You see the amounts for neutral, somewhat, and strongly disagree. The next statement, the gifted education services and seminars have had a positive impact on my child. And again, we see the same scores as the last question or the last statement. The next statements, I'm going to compare. The one on the top left is related to the gifted educator. My child's gifted educator has a good understanding of the needs of my child and does an adequate job of meeting those needs. We see 58% of parents strongly agree with this statement and 21% somewhat agree with this statement. Down here we see my child's regular teachers have a good understanding of the needs of my child and do an adequate job of meeting those needs. 18 strongly agree, 28 somewhat agree. More parents are neutral, and then we have more parents who are disagreeing with this statement. So from this we begin to see that some of the targets and needs need to be in the regular education classroom, more so than the gifted education classroom, although there's obviously still room for growth there. I also conducted a teacher survey and had 54 respondents in the elementary school, middle school, and high school at our district. On the teacher survey, there were 12 questions with scaled agreement and then one open-ended response. For some of the questions, they were pretty similar results across the district, and then a couple I saw very different responses based on what building the teachers were in. This first question, I combined all of the responses of the teachers in the different building, and the statement was, I have attended workshops and professional development sessions on gifted education. This big piece of the pie here strongly disagree. So most teachers are confident that they have not attended workshops and professional development sessions on gifted education. And when we add in the 21% who are pretty sure they haven't ever attended those, we see the majority of teachers here have never had professional development on gifted education. And then we have, I think, probably 2 teachers in each of these categories who thought they definitely had or they maybe had attended workshops or professional development on gifted education. The next statement was that the gifted education teacher is available to assist me at my building when I have sought help. So this is kind of seeing how well the teachers feel supported. And we see 20% strongly agree and 18% somewhat disagree. And we see a big section of the pie here neutral. So the teachers aren't really sure whether or not the gifted teacher is available, or maybe they haven't sought help. And then we see 17 somewhat disagree and 6 strongly disagree. The next statement was a reflection. I have been able to differentiate instruction to address the needs of gifted learners in my classroom. 15% of teachers strongly agree that they have been able to differentiate, and 33% somewhat agree. A lot of teachers are neutral, so I guess they haven't, or they don't really know whether or not they've been able to truly differentiate. And then we have 13 who somewhat disagree and 4 strongly disagree. The educational needs of gifted students are adequately being met in our school. We see a pretty small portion of the group here strongly or somewhat agreeing with this statement. Seems like most are neutral. They're not really sure whether the needs are being met in the school. And then we see more than about a third of teachers who think they're not being met in our school. The next statement, I believe gifted students in our school have benefited from gifted programming. I broke this down by building because this helped with some of my needs assessments. In the elementary school, all teachers strongly agreed, somewhat agreed, or were neutral on this issue. There was nobody who specifically disagreed. And in the middle school, we had nobody who strongly agreed with this statement. We had a little over a third who somewhat agreed. More than half were neutral. They weren't sure whether or not the students have benefited from gifted education. And then we have 8% who are pretty sure they have not benefited from gifted education. In the high school, this neutral zone, ambivalence towards whether or not they believe students are currently benefiting from gifted education is growing. And then we see strongly agree and somewhat agree, strongly disagree and somewhat disagree. In terms of the program design, the first area that I'd like to speak to is the regular classroom curriculum. And right now we have the students in grades 3 and 4 cluster group. Next year we're going to move it into 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as well. These cluster group means that all of the gifted students will be with the same teacher and on the same schedule in the same section as other gifted students. When there are more than 6 students in a grade, they're getting split up into 2 groups among 2 teachers, so that the teacher doesn't have too large a burden of gifted students and GIEPs and whatnot. Also, using more curriculum compacting to allow students to go through material at a faster pace and then do replacement work. Guided math and reading groups. Right now we're doing a lot of guided reading groups, which is great, but we're hoping to bring the practice into more guided math groups to allow for small ability grouped time for students to work together, work with the teacher, work independently. I'm also hoping to introduce more pre-testing next year and replacing work where students already know the material. I think a lot of teachers feel very overwhelmed by the idea of pre-testing and feel like it's so much data collection and so much information, and they really can't be doing that on a regular basis. And I'd like to share with them some alternative strategies for pre-testing that are a little bit less cumbersome for the teacher. Also, differentiation support. Next year I plan to attend all the middle school team meetings, which happen once a cycle every 6 school days, and attend those meetings to offer ideas for differentiation. So I'm hoping to do like a key strategy of the week kind of thing, do handouts and talk about maybe how it could be applied in their course. I also hope to offer my prioritized list of needs. Number 1, more support of teachers in differentiation and finding and creating differentiated materials, especially in the middle school and high school. More support of teachers in specific subjects, trying to make them understand, or trying to help them understand when I am available and how I can help them in their content areas and find resources for them that they feel supported in their differentiation. More differentiation for students' needs, especially in the high school. Right now with our GIPs, we kind of do somewhat of a one-size-fits-all, and I'd like to utilize tiered instruction and opportunities that are more appropriate with the needs of the child based on their abilities and performance. And then I need to do a better job of explaining teachers' roles in students' gifted education. And I think that every year I write up GIEP summaries that kind of summarizes the main points of a student GIEP, and I share it with all the teachers. But I really, next year, hope to develop a document that says kind of like the gifted support teachers' roles, the regular education teachers' roles, and then our shared responsibilities. In terms of proficiency and acceleration for our program, math acceleration right now is happening on a very sporadic basis, kind of what teachers or suggested and what parents happen to know that it's a possibility. It's really not advertised well or carried out in a way that's fair for all students. In the future, I hope to start 1st and 2nd grade years with a pre-test of knowledge for that year and look at students' assessment scores to see if they might possibly meet that 93% proficiency rate that our district has set forth through school board policies that students must meet to go on to the next grade level. So I really would like to start seeing testing for all students, or at least trying to pull from a large screening pool and testing students that we think might have any chance of meeting the acceleration guidelines in math. Starting this at a young age. Sometimes it also happens when the kids are a little older, and that's more difficult on the students to be jumping math curriculum in older grades. I'd also like to see in the future curriculum telescoping for grades 6 through 8 math. Currently for Median we have heterogeneous grouping for math through 6th grade. In the future, I'd like to see ability tracked ability courses beginning in 6th grade for a select group of highly able students. I think that there's a population who could begin working at a faster pace, and so instead of doing 6th grade math, pre-algebra, algebra 1, which is our current progression for the highest track of kids, I believe that there's at least one class worth of kids in each grade that could do those 3 years in 2 years and then finish algebra 2 as 8th graders and be a year advanced through a telescoped curriculum. Full grade acceleration right now, again, is happening sporadically when the parents happen to ask about it, and I'd like to make sure that we start assessing all students who are going through the gifted identification project, gifted identification process to see if they meet the requirements for full grade acceleration. In our district, they have to be advanced 2 years or more in 2 or more subjects on achievement testing administered by our school psychologist. Reading acceleration, I'd like to see high ability learners have the opportunity to be instructed on above grade level texts on a daily basis. Right now this happens in some of the buildings and in some of the classrooms during guided reading, but I'd like to see that spread more equitably. Pace of instruction in the telescope classroom, obviously it'd be 33% faster. You'd be doing 3 years of material in 2 years. In the accelerated classroom, the pace would really be, the student would be moved up into a grade level of students. So the pace is going to be the same for that student as the other students, but with some support and curriculum compacting if needed. And instructional arrangements include cluster grouping and cross-age seminars. In terms of social, emotional, and affective programs design, I'd like to add in a lunch bunch for newly identified students. These are normally 2nd through 4th graders, and they really don't know what it means to be gifted, what it doesn't mean, and I think it'd be a nice opportunity to get the students together and talk about their struggles and joys as they kind of start doing seminar classes, and then also just sharing experiences about some of the unique concerns that come up for gifted kids. I also have the guidance counselor in to do lessons in seminar for students in grades 2 through 6, and we focus on different topics like perfectionism or modesty, or how to understand your own abilities and talk about them. I also do a presentation and offer support to 8th grade students. This is in conjunction with the 8th grade scheduling night. All the students in the school attend that with their parents, but I bring the gifted students and their parents in ahead of time, and we look at kind of the unique scheduling concerns for gifted kids, trying to perhaps graduate early or get AP or college and high school courses in earlier than average, and then also like what are the gifted services that are offered, what are the needs of these students, and what our college is going to be looking for on their transcript. And then I also offer yearly support and meetings with all the high school students looking ahead to college. This is in collaboration with their GIEP meeting. I kind of make sure that make sure the student has a focus in mind with their course selection and grades, and that they're doing everything they need to get to whatever college they're interested in. For staff development, I have selected 4 topics. The first one I would ask all teachers in the district to attend. It would be Gifted Education 101. And the topics would be, why is gifted education important? What is IQ? What does that mean? What does it tell us about someone? Looking at the growth added model for the state of Pennsylvania, when we are looking at standardized testing scores, it's important with gifted students not to just look at their straight score, which is usually advanced, but to also look at the growth added. So how much material did they learn this year? They probably came into the beginning of the school year advanced, or maybe they did but that's not really that helpful to see if they're still advanced on the end of year testing. We want to see how advanced they are and make sure that they've made some growth. I'm going to talk about the positive effects, research-based effects of gifted education and the potential dangers of not offering gifted services, what GIEPs are, how they function, regular education teachers' role in developing and carrying out goals, continuum of services, and a few differentiation ideas. My second topic would be gifted learners one-on-one, and this would be for all teachers of the gifted who had the students in any core subject. And in that, I would go over unique traits of gifted learners, such as oversight abilities. We'd look at impacts of giftedness on an individual in terms of social, emotional, academic, social, and then I'd also be looking at what kind of guidance and support we need to offer these students. I'd offer a session on differentiation to all middle and high school teachers of core subjects. The main focus of this would be curriculum compacting, talking about what that looks like, what's involved, and then you see a list of the different subtopics there. I have a lot of materials that I could share with teachers to use in the classroom, and I think that it would really be easy for them to implement in a lot of cases if they already know the material and have perhaps pre-tests, or if not, they have final exams, they have study guides. It's really not a huge burden on the teacher to prepare for curriculum compacting, and I want to kind of share with them what that would look like. I'd also offer them other differentiation ideas, including project menus that are differentiated for different levels of students, triple Venn diagrams instead of doubles for gifted students, and then other resource ideas. And finally, I'd offer a staff development session meeting the needs of gifted learners, and this would be for the cluster group teachers, so the regular ed teachers who have those gifted clusters. And I would be sharing what the model is, where it came from, what the theory and evidence is for its effectiveness, how to identify students in the cluster who need acceleration, how to initiate and assess subject level and grade level advancement, how to use standards from the next highest grade to advance students and to encourage learning, and then also looking into how to further advance and use those gifted guided math groups. My advocacy activities include an 8th grade scheduling night that I referred to earlier. I'd also like to bring in a gifted project showcase. A lot of my middle school students complete independent studies and write websites and do other creative projects, and they never get a great opportunity to share this with others. It's usually just a short presentation for the couple other students in their seminar class. So I'd like to have a night where we bring in parents and students and teachers and administrators and everyone from the community. I'd like to advertise this so they can see the wonderful things that the students are doing in the seminar classroom. In Pennsylvania, the gifted organization is PAGE, Pennsylvania Association for Gifted Education, and there's local affiliate chapters all over the state. There is not one in our county, and I'm thinking in the future of contacting other gifted educators and parents to see if there's support out there and interest in starting and joining a PAGE chapter. This would be a group that would advocate for gifted students at school board meetings, in the student's own district, and also on a legislative statewide basis. Might be someone who parents could get to come along to GIEP meetings to advocate for the students' needs. And then I often contact the local newspapers and tell them about things, special events that are going on in the gifted education classroom, and get them involved and write stories about what's going on. So that is my program design. I hope that you enjoyed it or were interested in it. It's definitely a work in progress. I started this position about 4 years ago and built everything, almost everything from scratch. And I think that there's a lot of growth yet that needs to happen, but I'm excited about where it's going and the tools that I've been given to take it there.